Okay, we are here with Creighton student athletes Stephen Ashworth, Francisco Farabello, and Ryan Cockbrenner. We have up to 20 minutes with the student athletes before head coach Greg McDermott. Please raise your hand to ask a question, and someone with a microphone will come over. Please state your name and media affiliation. If you're joining on Zoom, please use the raise hand function for questions. We will address the questions in the room first and get to the Zoom if time allows. Questions for student athletes? Front right.
Matt DeMarinis, White and Blue Review. Just curious what your impressions were of watching Oregon yesterday and studying them a little bit on film and kind of going through some of their tendencies.
Ryan, you want to start and work your way down?
Yeah, they're obviously a really, really good basketball team. Looking specifically at my matchup against their big man, I mean, he's a really, really good player, really big, really physical, good touch around the rim. So we definitely got to be locked in, prepared for this team. But I think if we do what Mac asked us to do and do the game plan we put out there, I think we got a good chance.
Francisco?
Yeah, super talented basketball team, and there is a reason why they're here. They won the Pac-12 tournament. One of their players dropped 40 the other day, so that's not a minor factor. But yeah, as Cox said, like, we're gonna have a plan. I feel like we're gonna be ready for them.
Steven?
I think I noticed that they play with a lot of good pace, a lot of athleticism on the court, and they have a few different defenses that they like to throw at teams, and so got to continue to study the film, see where our matchups bode well against them and those type of things on defensive end and offensive end, and just enjoying the journey and looking forward to another chance to play another basketball game.
Questions for student athletes? Middle aisle?
James Creppier from the Oregonian. Stephen, you faced these guys back when you were at Utah State a couple of years ago in the NIT. Schematically, what they do defensively particularly really doesn't change much, even though the names and numbers might. What do you remember of some of that, and what, from what you've seen on tape so far, applies about their defense? What makes it kind of difficult from a matchup zone standpoint?
Yeah, they've got a lot of athleticism and a lot of length. When you have perimeter guys that can get a lot of deflections and run out into transition, it fuels their offense. And I remember playing them the NIT at Utah State. That was really what hurt us in the second half of that game. I believe we had the lead at the first half, but at the second half, they really came out and were aggressive and extended that zone. And so spacing is a key against all of that, making sure that you keep your spacing and keep your movement, because when teams get stagnant and pushed up the floor, they're really, really hard to score against. And so those are some of the things that I remember. And I mean, yeah, there's different teams, and we're a completely different team than I played with at Utah State. And so excited about it, but those are some of the things that I think are similar to years past.
Tom, back left.
Tom Withers, Associated Press. Ryan, I'm just curious, because of your defensive prowess, I'm sure teams try to pull you out away from the rim a lot, like Akron did yesterday. Is that pretty common, and how do you guys usually counter that?
Yeah, I mean, if the other team has a big man that can shoot, they definitely use that to their advantage to pull me out and stretch our defense out a lot. I mean, as far as how we counter that, it's pretty matchup based for what the other team has as far as like other players on the court. We've done a few different things throughout the year, trying to figure out what works best for us when we play against teams like that. But I think as we've gotten later in the year, we've made certain adjustments and come up with certain game plans that work a little better for us than we had at the beginning of the year. So I like where we're at against teams that play with big men that can shoot. So, yeah, it definitely changes what we like to do, but I think we've made some good adjustments throughout the year.
Since I got the mic, I know Coach Altman's time at Creighton predates most of your lives, but I was just curious if you're aware of his legacy there, and does Coach Mack talk at all about what Dana did and how he helped build Creighton into what it is now?
Yeah, Mack does bring him up every now and then. I mean, Coach Altman definitely kind of laid the foundation for now where the program's at today, and when Mack took over, just built upon what Coach Altman had already done there. Obviously, he was really, really successful at Creighton. So, yeah, I mean, we have a lot of respect for him as a coach and what he's doing over there at Oregon now, too.
Left middle.
Will Graves, AP. Guys, I was talking to Sterling the other day about being the hype guy or whatever, the handshake dude at the end of the line. I'm sort of curious, and I've talked to players at other teams that have that same sort of responsibility. I mean, what kind of energy does that bring? And do you guys sort of, he talked about the dances he tries to get y'all to do or whatever. I mean, what kind of energy does that bring to the group?
Steven, you want to start that?
Sure. I mean, I think it brings followers is the first thing all the dances Sterling tries to get us to do. He's just a joy to be around as a kid that is always having a smile on his face and is trying to uplift others. And he's got talents on and off the court, and he tries to show those. And I think that it gives us all a good boost of energy when he's doing that.
Somebody told me the other day that was the culture of basketball, sort of those rituals and stuff, that pregame stuff. I mean, is that something in your previous, like in high school, did you guys have a guy on that team, on your teams, that was that end of the lineup guy, the handshake guy? Is that something that y'all had?
I'm not from here, and that's not something that we do overseas, but I respect it. Yeah, I mean, what Steven said, the season gets really long, and it's good to have guys like that just with simple fact, by just dancing, they just can lift your energy up. So it's a joy to be around them.
Ryan?
Yeah, like these guys say, I mean, it's always nice to have guys on the team who are just having fun and bringing good energy, even if, like, Sterling's redshirting, and so he's not playing, but he's still bringing really good energy to the team. And so guys like that are awesome. Him, Sammy, Brock, Shane, Josh, all those guys have done a great job all year bringing good energy.
Questions for student athletes? Right here to the right.
Thanks, guys. Adam Zalanka, Field Level Media. For the guards, San Francisco mentioned Oregon, who has a player who had 40 points yesterday. Just to follow up on that, when you're game planning, preparing for a team with a guy who just did that, does that do you focus more on him, or are you concerned that, like, if you focus too much on one player, then other people might be left open and have a hot night of their own?
Steven, you want to take that?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair question. I think that especially at this stage, there's only 32 teams left, and so every team out here has really talented players. And if you start to focus too heavily on just one person, I do think that others can tend to hurt you in ways that you weren't quite prepared for. So I think we're really trying to do a good job of holistically looking at their group and understanding at the same time that he's in a really good rhythm and finding ways that we can maybe counteract that, as well as just continuing to see how our defense and how our style might give them problems as well before we try to adjust too much to what they do really, really well.
Right middle.
Justin Guerrero, Pittsburgh Tribune Review. Ryan, you mentioned Oregon's big man, Dante. He got to the free throw line 15 times yesterday. I'm wondering, just for you, when you have a matchup like that, there's going to be a lot of contact. He's going to be living in the paint. Just what are the challenges for you going up against a guy like that, and in particular just trying to defend him cleanly and staying out of foul trouble?
Yeah, I mean, we know. I mean, obviously watching the game yesterday, shot a lot of free throws. They're probably going to try to do that again, get me in foul trouble and whatnot. But I feel like, especially in the Big East, we played a lot of bigs who are super physical like that. A lot of bigs who are not necessarily trying to draw fouls, but there's going to be a lot of confrontations at the rim. So I've gotten a lot of practice this year at trying to stay out of foul trouble. I think I've done a pretty good job so far. So I'll just try to do that again. But I mean, like I said, he's a really talented big man who's super physical. So I'll have my hands full for sure, but we'll try my best.
Left middle.
Ryan, sort of to follow up on that, I don't know if you saw the end of the Kansas game last night, but there was a call at the rim at the end. Do you think there should be a capacity for fouls to be reviewed at any point?
It seems like above my pay grade to be thinking about stuff, ref rules. I just try to play the game the way the rules have it, as it is now. And, if I ever become a coach one day, then I'll start thinking about those types of things.
That's a coach-type answer, so I appreciate it.
All right, questions for student athletes. Front right.
You guys collectively have played in, Ryan, you've played in the most NCAA tournament games in Creighton history. You guys have all played in a bunch now. How do you, when you go into a situation like this, it might feel normal to you, but it's not to maybe everybody else watching. How does your experience kind of play itself out, manifest itself in an NCAA tournament game?
See if you want to start and work your way down.
Sure. Yeah, this is my third opportunity to play in March Madness, and so I think that there is a lot of advantage to somebody who's been in situations like this before, played a lot of postseason games, and understand what's at stake, but also at the same time that you can't get too caught up in the moment. You have to be present and do what's now. And then also it's just, from my perspective, it's a joy playing with guys like this that have that experience as well, that we can all lean on each other and trust each other in big-time moments. And it seems like time and time again, people are ready to deliver. And so that's a testament to the team we have as a whole, just being ready to go. And it's something that I think we're using well to our advantage this year.
Francisco?
Yeah, like you said, it's not normal. Like not a lot of players get the opportunity to play what we're playing right now. And of course, there's excitement. But I mean, I remember Coach Mack yesterday before the game. Like players tend to let the excitement take on their game, speed them up. But we try to be as calm as we can, and the most important part at the end of the day is just having fun and enjoying it. And I think we've been doing a pretty good job with that so far.
Ryan?
Yeah, I think once you play in this tournament in a time or two, you start to find a balance of like having urgency and playing free. Like Bello said, it's easy to get sped up in these moments and think you got to go and try to do too much, especially like when you have 3-4 plays in a row that don't go your way. But once you get some experience, you can kind of slow down and find that balance of, okay, it's time to maybe be a little more locked in because we've had a few things not go our way, but not do it too much to where you start messing up because you're trying to do too much. So I think that experience definitely helps a lot in finding that balance.
Tom?
Withers AP. Francisco, since you're not from Nebraska, how did Creighton find you, or how did you find Creighton?
Very different than what I was used to. I played 3 years at TCU, and Fort Worth was a lot different than Omaha, the DFW area just in general. But I've been asked that question this last 2 months since it's my senior year, and that's it. I loved it. I loved it since I stepped the first day since I stepped foot on campus. I loved it. The Creighton community is incredible. And I've been saying this, I'll probably never be part of something as big as Creighton basketball. And I enjoyed, and I'm enjoying as much as I can.
Did you know about it when you were in Argentina?
I had no idea. No, the first time that I heard it was I was playing in Australia, and one of my teammates, Sam Froling, he was getting recruited by Creighton, but still, like, even when I committed to TCU, I had no idea what Creighton was and where it was. But as I said, I loved it every moment.
Right middle.
Justin Guerrero with the Pittsburgh Trib again. This is for any or all of you guys up there, and it's bear with me. It's not about the game tomorrow, but I'm wondering if any of you guys caught anything of the Kentucky-Oakland game after you guys wrapped up. One of their players, Jack Golke, kind of just came out of nowhere, drained 10 three-pointers. That was one short of the all-time NCAA tournament record for three-pointers. And what I'm getting at is just, for you guys being here in March Madness, is this an opportunity? Do you guys have the ability to just take a step back and just appreciate a performance like that? Or are you guys kind of just so locked in on yourselves that maybe you're not all that concerned, even when there is like just a super crazy historic performance like that?
Ryan, you want to take that?
Yeah, I did watch some of that game, and I think even when you're a player playing in the tournament, you can't take a second and go like, wow, that was really crazy what they did. Probably not taking it in as much as I will in the future when I'm watching it as a fan, but you definitely see it and just go like, wow, that's kind of crazy.
All right, questions for student athletes. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Got some more leg room here, too. Okay, once again, please raise your hand to ask a question, and someone with the microphone will come over. You need another water?
That's what you call a turnover before the game even starts. No, I'm good.
You sure? Also, please state your name and media affiliation. If you're joining on Zoom, please use the raise hand function for questions. We will address questions in the room first and get to Zoom if time allows. Okay, questions for Coach McDermott. Front right.
Matt DeMarinis, White and Blue Review. Mac, I know you guys have kind of a cheat code of yourself in the middle there, but in what you've learned about N'Faly Dante and shooting 84% over his last 7 games and high volume, what kind of a challenge do you think that's going to present tomorrow?
Yeah, he's terrific. And, you look at their team with him versus without him. This is a team that's, grossly underseeded. If Dana had this group of guys available all season long, he wouldn't have needed to play in the Pac-12 tournament to win it to get in the NCAA tournament. He would have had a very good seed. And they're playing great basketball right now. Dante impacts the game on both ends of the floor. He's very physical at the rim offensively, and then he's a tremendous rim protector on the other end. And his physicality is obviously going to be a problem for us.
Questions for Coach? To the right.
Greg Adams, Lanka, Field Level Media. Looking at the tape yesterday of Cousinard, what jumped out at you in the way he got to his 40 points, and how are you balancing dialing in on him versus not leaving some of his teammates open in the backcourt?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you ever want to overreact to a crazy, outstanding game by a player. I think everybody has them. Not many have them like the one he had yesterday on this stage. But he scored at every level yesterday, and we have to make sure that the best we can get him to take the shots that we want him to take, not the shots that he wants to take. And that sounds easy in theory. It's very difficult because of his size and strength and the pace that he plays with. And when he's making 3-point shots at a level like that, it's very problematic because of all the other things that he can do. But we'll give him some different looks. We'll put some different guys on him. Probably mix up our ball screen coverages so he doesn't get comfortable. But he's a terrific player, and he's had the game of the tournament so far.
Question over here on the left.
Brooke Pryor, ESPN. Greg, how has your relationship and friendship with Dana evolved since you took over for him, and is it a little surreal to be going against him in this situation on this stage?
Yeah, I mean it's quite a history. I took the Wayne State job in Wayne, Nebraska, Division II school in 1994. I think Dana started at Creighton in '92. So I watched him kind of build the program in the early years, and then took the Northern Iowa job in 2001, and then I competed against him, with Corver and Tolliver and the great teams that he had. And at that time you're competing and you're recruiting against each other, and you're probably not going to dinner together. But we've always had respect for each other. And then when I moved to Omaha, first of all, he recruited Doug, right before he left, and he's a cheater to start because he took me to play golf. Him and Bruce Rasmussen, the athletic director at the time, they gave a couple phony handicaps. I totally lost the game on the first tee, and I ended up paying them. I mean, usually the dad of a recruit is probably not going to have to pay the head coach after the golf round, but that was the case that particular day. But since my time in Omaha, now a lot of my very close personal friends are also people that were very close personal friends of Dana when he was in town. And you learn a lot about someone by talking to their friends and how he treated people. Dana's family is still very close to our program. His father, Lyle, until his health deteriorated a little, and his brother Dirk would come to our monthly basketball luncheons with their Creighton gear on and support us. through everything. And I've said hi to Dirk yesterday, actually walking off the floor. I think we've developed a friendship as a result of that. And I'll get a text from him after a big game. He'll get one from me once in a while. But a very high level of respect for the job that he did. And when you take over a program, I've always felt it's important to embrace your history and make sure that our players understand of the work that the people that came before us did, and certainly Dana's era of him as a coach and the guys that played for him, laid the groundwork for me to happen and Doug to happen and the Big East to happen. None of that is that's a pipe dream without Dana Altman. So he'll always be beloved in our community. I know this will be a hard game for some of our fans tomorrow because they cheer for Dana absolutely every game. It's interesting that we ended up in the same bracket. But the good news is one of us is going to go on. And I guess the bad news is one of us is going to have to go home.
Left aisle.
James Creppier from the Oregonian. Greg, these are also instances where we usually get to reflect and look back at years where we don't necessarily do 14 years later. When you were taking over, because you were taking over after some success from him by comparison to what he was taking over at Oregon, can you reflect back at what that 2011 CBI matchup at that time and going back and forth, what that meant, and as you went about instilling a culture there after success, and then at the end of that season, oh yeah, by the way, now you have to face the former coach and the former players and et cetera, et cetera.
It was a freaking nightmare is what it was, to be honest. I mean, it's the last thing you want to do as a new coach who's replacing a guy who's beloved by everybody and has had unprecedented success is, we're going to go to this tournament that neither of us really want to go to, and you look at the bracket and you're on opposite ends, and of course we win all of our games and they win all their games, and the next thing you know, we're in a 3-game series with Oregon. I think we were probably responsible for getting a line on the floor at half court because we got beat in game 3 in a tie game. My point guard is out at half court getting set up the offense, and he's somewhere standing on the trees at half court, and the referee has a better than 20/20 vision because somehow he picked out that his heel was on that little broken line that went through the forest, and he called an over and back, and then we got beat on a shot at the next end. But it was an interesting way to end that first year. But you could see at that time already that Dana was instilling in the Oregon program the way he wanted things done. And, we had inherited a group of seniors. That team for me was really 5 or 6 seniors and then 5 or 6 young guys, which was Doug's freshman class. But he had really good dudes that he had recruited to that program. And those 6 guys, 5 or 6 guys, those seniors, they, while we didn't win as much as we would have liked to that year, they really instilled what we wanted, the standards and the culture that we were trying to get the program to be moving forward.
Right front.
Matt DeMarinis, White and Blue Review. Mac, I know this isn't going to affect the prep or certainly not going to be present in your mind when the game gets tipped off, but with Rass here in Pittsburgh, watching the only two head coaches that he hired for men's basketball go at it in the 30 years that he was the athletic director, like what is that going to mean anything to you?
I mean, Bruce Rasmussen means everything to me, and I'm sure Dana would speak about Bruce in a very similar way. Besides being our boss and the guy that gave us an opportunity, he was a mentor to me and became a great friend and is still a great friend today and a mentor today. I think you become, as you go through this journey of life, I think you become a lot of what the people around you are like and what you learn from them. And I think you can see a lot of what's happening in Oregon's program and our program and the way that people are treated is probably a direct result of Dana's relationship and my relationship with Bruce because of what we learned from him and his ability to have absolutely no agenda for himself. It's always about somebody else. And simply, it's why the culture that he created, still exists at Creighton. It's why you have, Debbie Conroy, our women's golf coach, has been there 31 years. Tom Lilly, women's tennis, 27 years. Dan Chips rowing 24 years, Jim Flannery in women's basketball, I think 22, and then I think Coach Service in baseball and Kirsten in volleyball have been 20 or 21, and I'm at 14. Like, that's half of our staff. And, we've been there forever. And it's because of the culture that Bruce has created, and now Father Hendrickson and Marcus Blossom, just like I carried the torch from Dana. They're carrying that torch from Bruce. But it'll be bittersweet for him tomorrow. He assured me last night, though, that this is Blue Jays all the way. So I haven't seen him face to face, but he made it clear in a late night text because neither of us sleep after a game. So he just wanted to make sure I knew this was I'm supposed to kick Oregon's ass, as he said.
Back left.
Tom Withers, AP. So what did you shoot that day, and what did Dana shoot?
Well, I don't know what the scores were, but I know the cash exchange afterwards was not in my favor. But no, they took me to Omaha Country Club, and you're thinking, God, they really want my kid. This ought to be a profitable day. It technically would have been NIL before there was NIL. Should I be fortunate enough to win? But I was not fortunate enough to win. I felt like I got double teamed actually that day. But we had a great day, and it was at that time, I was still coaching at Iowa State, so that was Doug's first exposure to Creighton. And obviously he really liked it. So when I ended up taking the job, he got out of that Northern Iowa deal, and the rest is history.
And Brian was saying that you do share with them kind of the groundwork that you were saying that Dana laid there. What specifically did he do? I know you were kind of watching it from afar, but those imprints that you still see now in the program.
I mean, he recruited the right kind of guys, and and there was a culture of family in his program then, and you can tell that because a lot of his former players, a bunch of them live in Omaha, or they're constantly coming back to Omaha for our games or in the summertime, and they're stopping by the practice facility. The former players don't do that unless they enjoyed their experience, unless they were treated the right way. And obviously they had success, and that certainly helps. But, Dana did it with team after team. He'd lose guys, and, but, Kyle Korver, and Anthony Tolliver, the two guys, the most recent guys from Dana's tenure that played in the NBA, what better representatives of an institution and of a program than Kyle Korver and Anthony Tolliver? And that, I think that gives you a snapshot into the type of people Dana brought into Omaha, into the Creighton program.
Left middle.
Will Graves, AP. Would you be in favor of any sort of potential review system on fouls, maybe particularly late in games, or are the games already sort of drawn out enough that the call's the call and that's it?
I'd probably, I hadn't thought about that. I understand why you're asking. I saw the play last night. I would probably want to talk to the NBA guys and get a feel from them on whether they like it, don't like it. It seems like we go to the monitor a lot the way it is right now, and we're trying to figure out a way to kind of keep our game moving along and make it more fan-friendly, and would that slow it down potentially? I mean, we all have video on the bench that's instantaneous, basically, so when we go to a challenge, we pretty much already know the answer. But, are we going to challenge traveling? Are we going to challenge? I mean, what's next? Where does it stop? I mean, there's always been a human element in the game, and I don't think we want 3 robots out there running around officiating the game. So I don't know. I'd want to talk to some of our peers in the NBA to figure out if they feel like it's been a good thing for their game. Anything that'll improve the game, absolutely. But let's give it some thought first.
Back right.
Matt Preem, 24/7 Sports. You called Oregon an under grossly seeded team. I don't know how far back in the scout you went, but what are the traits that you're seeing to have that kind of feeling for this team?
Well, Kuznard and Shellstead are playing at a high level, and that Dante's he's the difference maker, right? When he's on the floor, he commands so much attention on the offensive end because you can't guard him one-on-one, and we've got one of the best defenders in the country, and I'm not sure we can guard him one-on-one. And then, defensively, he sits back there and him back shots. And like Kalkbrenner, there's the shots you block, there's the shots you change, which don't show up on a stat sheet. And the ones that really don't show up on the stat sheet are the ones you don't take because he's there. And he has that impact on their opponents. And, Arizona's a heck of a team. I think they're a team that's got a chance to be a Final Four team. And, that 12, 15-minute stretch from the end of the first half till 8 minutes left in the game, they just dominated Arizona. And I think you saw that on display again yesterday.
Front right.
Matt, could you maybe compare the mood, the feeling at this stage right now compared to exactly where it was last year going into that Baylor game? Maybe hey, we got to really break through and get to the Sweet 16. I know you'd been to one before that, but how does it feel right now with the past success that you had last year?
Yeah, I think every year is different. The hard thing to do is to get here, and then you just take it a game at a time, and you try to get through that first one and survive. And then you have 2 long days of prep, and you're trying to get to the second one. So I don't think our guys feel any pressure to get back to Sweet 16 or an Elite 8 or a Final Four. I think their focus has been let's let this thing rip. Let's give it our best shot, and let's see if it's good enough. And if it is, great. If it's not, we've got nothing to hang our head about. We've had a heck of a year and done a lot of great things. So, and frankly, I don't want them to feel that pressure. That type of pressure is only going to be a hindrance to where we're trying to go. It's not going to help us. That's for fans to think about, but we can't think about that in our locker room.
Left aisle.
James Creppy with the Oregonian. Greg, a bit of a two-parter on each end. Defensively, what is it about their matchup zone that's a unique challenge compared to others? And offensively, what is it about the pick and roll with Couisnard and Dante that, yes, they're very old players, a 25-year-old guard and a fifth-year center, but what is it about their connection that makes theirs a difficult aspect when so many teams run pick and roll?
Yeah, the matchup, a lot of teams, there are some teams that we've played against in our league that play it, but they play it more as a changeup. And because they play it more as a changeup, the amount of time they probably commit to it in practice is probably minuscule compared to what their other defenses are. It's an important part of Dana's defensive plan. It always has been, ever since I first coached against him in 2001. So 23 years I've seen it. It's an important part of what they do. And as a result, their guys are really good at it. There's not a pattern to it that you can unlock. It's elite communication. It's great length. It's covering each other. It's communication that makes it really good. And then, oh, by the way, if we make a mistake, we got Dante back there at the rim. So that's what makes that really good. And then the ball screen, I think Couisnard is one of the best that I've seen in the country in a ball screen situation. And we call it a hostage dribble, where you get the guy in your back and kind of keep him there and then read a situation. He's strong enough, he's physical enough, he's crafty enough to get a guy on his back and then decide, am I going to dump it to Dante? Am I going to go it into my mid-range? Am I going to try to get to the rim? And you have to respect the three-point shot at the point of the ball screen. So it's not like you're going to jump under the screen because he can light you up with a three-point shot. And then Dante's such a physical roller, and he can get behind the defense and you can lob it up to him. So you're trying to commit to Couisnard and slow him down, but in the back of your mind, I got to get back to the rim or we're going to get dunked on. So they're elite at it, and we've got some guys. Trey Alexander, Ryan Kalkbrenner are pretty good at it too. They've been together a long time and they've done it. And like Couisnard, Trey has that mid-range game and the shiftiness to do some different things. But it's definitely a problem, and I'm not sure if we had 5 days to prep, it's going to look any different than it will tomorrow. But we'll give it our best shot.
All right, last question, right aisle.
24/7 Sports. I don't know how many teams in the country like yours do have three guys that average 4 or more assists. Can you just speak to the playmaking ability that you guys have and how that's impacted your offense being one of the best in the country?
It's what we build our program on. We may not have as many guys that touch the top of the square as some other teams we're going to play, especially this time of the year. We value skill, We want guys that can handle it, pass it, shoot it, and understand how to play the game. And then we'll help you with the other stuff. And guys come into our program understanding that we talk about it in recruiting, like we are going to turn a good shot into a great shot. And the last thing you want to do is be the only guy on the team that's willing to turn a good shot into a great shot, because it never comes back to you. But our offense is such that the ball will find you if you play the right way. If you move the basketball, you make the extra pass, you cut with pace, you stay spaced at times when your teammates are in action, our offense will reward you because the ball will find you. So it's really intentional in recruiting that we have guys that are more than willing to make that pass. It's what we built the program on and what we will continue to build it on moving forward.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you. Somebody made a mess over here. Make sure Dana sits here.